Madam President, Chief Prosecutor, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It is an honor to address you at the launch of the International Criminal Court's Policy on Children. I wish I could be with you there in person. I wholeheartedly support the new policy and your efforts to end atrocities against children. Over 60 years of international humanitarian law, human rights law, international jurisprudence, and Security Council resolutions demand the protection of children during war and armed conflict. The law is clear. The killing or maiming of children, sexual violence against children, the recruitment, abduction, or enslavement of children, attacks on schools or hospitals, the denial of humanitarian access. These are war crimes, and they are prohibited in any circumstance. Our children are precious. They are the most vulnerable among us at times of war. Their education and health and development can be permanently damaged by conflict. When children can be taken from their families, conscripted and forced to take part in atrocities, when they witness killing and rape or suffer torture and deliberate starvation, when these and many other crimes take place with impunity, children's lives are devastated, their families are destroyed, and the impact is felt down the generations. Those who deliberately target children during war must be held to account, because that is what children deserve and what the peace and security of our world requires. As the UN Special Representative has put it, preventing crimes against children is a moral imperative, a legal responsibility, and a question of international peace and security. We all understand that the International Criminal Court is a court of last resort, and that the primary responsibility for addressing these crimes lies with national institutions. But when national justice fails or is impossible to pursue, there must be a court that stands up for those who cannot defend themselves and that strives to end impunity for the gravest international crimes. Countless innocent people died before nations united on that valuable principle, and it is worth defending. The International Criminal Court is currently facing great political pressures and challenges. But we learn from history that when our institutions are challenged, we should not abandon them or undermine them. We should improve them. Strengthening the court and universalizing the Rome Statute has never been more important. I recently met a young Syrian girl in a hospital in Jordan who witnessed her brother killed by a barrel bomb, which left her unable to walk. She is one of well over 10,000 Syrian children injured or killed in that conflict. She has just as much right to justice and protection as any one of us, if not a greater right, because international law also stipulates that children deserve special consideration and respect in times of war. Yet no one in the international community is currently holding out any hope of justice for that little girl and all those like her in Syria. Impunity anywhere is a threat to justice and security everywhere. For the instability it spreads and the terrible precedent it sets about what the world will tolerate. We have to use all the means at our disposal, including the International Criminal Court, to erode impunity for war crimes in the hope that we can reach a tipping point where these crimes become far harder to commit in the future. Each successful prosecution and new legal benchmark, whether at the ICC or elsewhere, is part of that long and vital generational effort. That is the light in which I believe the court's new policy on children should be seen. I particularly welcome the commitment to include charges for crimes against children wherever the evidence permits, as part of a more systematic approach. I congratulate the Office of the Chief Prosecutor and all those working on the policy. And I thank the judges, prosecutors, investigators, and all other ICC staff who work to bring justice in these distressing cases, as well as the NGOs helping survivors bring their cases forward. Now that the policy is in place, I hope it will be implemented. I appeal to governments to help, by giving the political support and consistent long-term backing the court needs to fulfill its mandate. I also call on governments and the United Nations Security Council in particular to uphold their obligation to prevent these crimes from happening in the first place, at a time when such crimes as bombing of hospitals and the use of chemical weapons are not met by resolute action. Mankind owes to the child the best it has to give. So says the preamble to the UN Declaration of the Rights of a Child. We know we are not giving our best to the children of Syria, Iraq, Yemen, Afghanistan, Central African Republic, to name a few examples. We know what our best is because it shines at us in the words of the UN Charter, the Rome Statute, and all our collective efforts to establish the rule of law internationally. The intention is there. The institutions are in place. We have to find the political will to meet our responsibilities and do so continuously over many years and in all places where war crimes are being committed. Today, the court has sent a very welcome signal that it is determined to play its part for the long term, and it deserves all our support. Thank you very much.